Hello, today we're going to talk about what a fraction is. What is a fraction? Over the next few weeks, we'll be working on different things using fractions. We'll be adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing with fractions, and just working with fractions in general. I know fractions are something that throw a lot of people off, so I wanted to be able to go over that with y'all. So what is a fraction? A fraction is a part of something or showing us multiple parts of something. When we have a fraction, we have a fraction line, and then on our fraction line, we have a numerator. And then under our fraction line, we have a denominator. And when I look at a numerator, that's going to be the part or the pieces when we're talking about a fraction. And the denominator is often referred to as the whole. How I think of this is I've got my pieces. So how many pieces of something I have over how many pieces the thing was cut into. My way of thinking is a little drawn out, so usually I go with part over whole. What that looks like is, I like to talk about pizza when I talk about fractions. So I might have a pizza and it's cut into 4 pieces. After the pizza party or after dinner, I've eaten some pizza and I only have 1 piece of pizza left. So I have 1 piece of pizza that was cut into 4 pieces, or I have 1/4 of my pizza left. We can also think about fractions as a way of showing division. Usually when we think about division, we might have a division problem like 12 divided by 6. With a fraction, we could show this same 12 divided by 6 is 12 over 6. And when we look at our division sign, we can kind of tell that it looks a little like a fraction with 1 dot in the numerator and another dot in the denominator. When we write a division problem as a fraction, we always want to put our first number on top and our second number on bottom. That's why we have 12 over 6. This is something you might see, especially when you start getting into more equations that have variables and multiple steps. Sometimes they do this to help show there's a split up between what's on the top and what's on the bottom, or it helps keep things a little more compact than writing this way. So we went a little bit over what a fraction is. It's going to be a part of something. Usually when we deal with fractions, we're dealing with less than 1 whole item, or we've got 1 whole item and part of another item, or maybe multiple items and part of a last item. I go back to my pizza scenario where I had a pizza party, maybe I had 10 pizzas for the kids in the class, and after the pizza party, I put the leftovers in boxes, and I had 4 boxes full of those pizzas that were cut into 4. So I've got 4 whole pizzas. I'm going to shade the pieces I have just to show that I had 4 slices for each of these 4 pizzas. And then I had a remainder. I had some stuff left, some slices that didn't make a full box, and maybe I had 3 slices. So it's not quite a full box. How I could write this is I could write it in 2 ways. I could write it as a mixed number or an improper fraction. A mixed number is where I'd have a whole number. So I've got 4 whole pizzas next to a fraction. I had 3/4 of a pizza left over. So my mixed number here would be 4 3/4. I could also write this as an improper fraction, and I would count the slices I have total. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. 19 slices of pizzas that were cut into 4. Both of these ways of showing the pizzas are equal because either way I have 4 whole pizzas and 3/4 left over, or if I count those up I have 19. And either way the pizzas are cut into 4 slices. That's why my denominator stays the same. Last thing I want to do with you today is show some comparing with fractions. When we're looking at comparing fractions to see which fraction is bigger, one thing we can do is compare our fractions to 1/2. So when I have 1/2, that means I have half of something. Here we have half of a circle. I could have an item that's cut into more than just 2 pieces and still have half of it. So usually when we say 1/2, we're thinking of 1 out of 2 pieces. We could have something that was cut into 8 pieces. So here we have 8 pieces, and if I wanted half of it, I could shade half of that and I have half. So my 1/2 is equal to 4/8. When I have half of 8 pieces, I have 4/8. Anything we're comparing to 1/2, we can look at our denominator and cut that number in half for our numerator. So if I had, for example, 7/12, and I want to compare that to 1/2. I want to know if that's bigger than 1/2 or smaller than 1/2 or maybe equal to 1/2. I can take my 12, divide that by 2 to get 6. So 1/2 of 12 would be 6/12. Comparing my 6/12 to my 7/12, my 7 pieces is bigger than 6 pieces, so 7/12 is greater than 6/12. Or what if I had 12/24? 12/24, I want to check to see if that's equal to 1/2. And I'll take 24, divide it by 2, and I get 12. So 12/24 is equal to 1/2. We can also find equivalent fractions. equivalent means equal. So like where our 12/24 is equal to 1/2, 12/24 is equivalent to 1/2. We can make equivalent fractions by taking any fraction and multiplying both the numerator and the denominator by the same thing. When we're thinking of fractions, any number over itself is equal to 1. So if I had 4/4, that's equal to 1 because I have 4 pieces of pizza that was cut into 4. So I have the whole pizza. When I want to find an equivalent fraction, basically what I'm doing with that multiplication is I'm taking something and cutting it into more pieces. So I've got my half of a pizza. And maybe I want to turn this into a pizza that was cut into 8 pieces. So I've got 2 pieces. I multiply that by 2 and now I have 4 pieces. And then I'm going to multiply that by 2 and I get 8 pieces. In total, I multiplied the whole fraction by 4 because 2 times 2 is 4. So 1/2 times 2/2 gets us 4/8. I want us to find a couple more equivalent fractions and then we'll call it for today. I've got 3/5 and I want to convert this into something over 25. I want the equivalent fraction to 3/5 that is a number over 25. I know 5 times 5 is 25. To keep this equivalent, I need to multiply my numerator and denominator by the same thing. So we're going to do 3 times 5 to get 15. So 3/5 is equivalent to 15/25. We'll do one more. Got 7/8. I want this to be some 42 over something. I know 7 times 6 is 42. So then to get the denominator, I'll do 8 times 6 to get 48. With fractions, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. So this is just a little bit of what we'll be going over the next few weeks. If you think of any questions or if there's anything that you want me to go over again, please just feel free to reach out and I will check in with y'all this week and we'll continue next week.